Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Joanne Leach. I'm a researcher at the University of Birmingham. And the first thing, well, what we're going to talk to you today about, myself and my colleague Adriana, who's right here, is largely about a research program on livable cities. And the first thing I want to do is show you a video that gives you, hopefully, a useful oversight of what that project did and what it was about. And then myself and Adriana will then delve down a bit deeper in more detail on a couple of the aspects of the program. So we'll start with the video.
The very, very first city ever came about because three cultures with different backgrounds all needed potable water. They had to drink, and they created a city around that.
As more and more people end up in cities, you end up with cities being under stress, aging, and you realise that actually unless we change the way in which we think about and govern and develop policies for our cities, things could get a lot worse quite quickly.
What we need to do is to co-create our changes to cities and city systems with the people who are involved in it.
What has been revealed through bringing this big team together is there is no one answer.
The Livable Cities programme was set up to address the challenges to our well-being that have come about as a result of our living closely together as human beings on planet Earth.
One of the issues around conventional research is that it is highly driven by the disciplines. So I approach it as a civil engineer, or I approach it as a musician. This one is saying, we've got a big complex problem called a city. How do you approach that?
This need for a radical rethink of how our cities should work if they are to progress towards being sustainable environments that positively support humanity into the future is one that requires a broad spectrum of expertise.
In order to address these challenges, we need to bring together a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary team. So we have from Southampton a whole team of people working in the field of energy and psychology. At UCL, we've got people expert in transport, in engineering, in governance and policy. In Birmingham, we have civil engineering, geographers, architects, eco-specialists. In Lancaster, we have designers, we have architects, we have social scientists. We need that diverse team because the problems are so diverse.
What we're really trying to do is transdisciplinary work that is beyond the disciplines, so that I would be able to contest an argument from a social scientist or an environmental scientist because I have sufficient understanding of their language and their cultures and their ways of working.
This dynamic new approach to researching the modern-day city illuminated the challenges brought about by the interconnected nature of the city's multiplicity of interacting systems.
Some of those systems are engineering systems. Some of them are financial systems. Where does the money come from and how is it managed? Some of them are governance systems. There are social systems, some of which are voluntary, healthcare, for social care, for education, and all of those systems needed the expertise to come together to look at the future.
Sort of transformation of our thinking about the cities from being a load of buildings and infrastructure and stuff into something which is essentially life is a fundamental change.
The team adopted 4 different approaches to the challenge of design and engineering for a livable city that puts human and planetary well-being at its center. These approaches focused on city life, city values, city governance, and city futures.
Traditionally, cities have data in different pots. They have pollution data, everything from the number of traffic lights to the number of houses, but it's all in different silos. What city life is about is trying to find a framework in order to bring this together in a holistic picture.
How can we move to a low-carbon society whilst at the same time also maintaining people's well-being?
City values is about understanding the values and identity of the citizens, the community, the businesses, and how that needs to be translated into the criteria for design principles for establishing a livable city of the future.
In resource-scarce and uncertain times, making good decisions is really important.
The water that comes out of the tap, the light that comes on when you switch it on, those things are just sort of taken for granted. We have a much greater need for understanding how everything works and putting in place governance and policy and investment that will improve the situation for the future.
We need to rethink the governance of cities and provide them with an innovation space where they can think more creatively about how they solve the challenges that face them.
In this study, we looked at people's aspirations for cities of the future.
Transforming the engineering of a city is about transforming the understanding of people as the core of what we want the engineering to serve. And that drives our future city.
We have this cycle of city life, city values, city governance and city futures. In the centre sits the innovation space.
The innovation space brought the team back together to foster radical new ways of thinking creatively about the future of our cities based on the findings of their research.
We looked at monitoring the energy consumption and also the carbon footprint of households. So we monitored about 200 households, including electricity, including gas consumption, including temperature and humidity, and also including carbon dioxide that they actually breathe in and out. Southampton could produce about 25% of their electricity from having solar panels from roofs of buildings. When the City Council found out about this, they are now investing in having a company that could actually promote this across the whole city.
This is but one of the many interventions that Livable Cities has explored. From the idea of removing cars from cities, from the idea of rezoning cities, to understanding how sharing within a city could transform the way it operates so that they can become more sustainable, more resilient, smarter with a people focus.
The evolving city, the city that can adapt in the future to meet the future needs of future generations.
This has produced a generation of young people who think differently about the work they've done, how they can relate other people's discipline to what they're doing, how they can synthesise that knowledge and think creatively.
Whether it be an artifact like a new piece of infrastructure, or change in working practices, or a more fundamental change to the system within cities, so that it will deliver benefits into the far future.
There we go, that's my slide back. So thank you for watching the video and sticking with us through that. So as you can see, it's a really big program, Livable Cities. And today's session, we're going to draw primarily from this program, which brought together loads and loads of researchers over a 5-year period. So there were 4 universities and at least 50 researchers on the project. So this session's linked to the 11th of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is to make cities inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. But when we talk about urban livability, we are talking not just about inclusivity, safety, resilience and sustainability, but also about education and blue spaces and energy and equality and green spaces, food, the economy and so on. So in fact, urban livability links to all of the Sustainable Development Goals. And that's probably because our cities are the pinch points of society. So prior to Livable Cities, there were research programs that explored several disciplinary specific and cross-disciplinary aspects of cities and how they might be better engineered. And this includes a program by the EPSRC called the Sustainable Urban Environments Program. But at the time, no UK or international study was found to embrace a holistic view of city performance that marries individual and societal aspirations, well-being and planetary well-being as well, so personal and planetary well-being. And more particularly, looking forward to the far future, the relationship between engineering and quality of life indicators remained largely unexplored. While city performance linkages to things like user-specific acceptability criteria, so the missing link between aspiring to and achieving low-carbon, resource-secure living, remained unaddressed. So cities are complex systems of systems, and Livable Cities broadly envision these as you see here and as you saw in the video. Now, civil engineers naturally embrace the principles of sustainability, so ensuring we meet the needs of people today without compromising the needs of future generations, Also the principles of resilience, so ensuring that our civil engineering creations continue to function and deliver their benefits to society no matter how that future develops. And also the principles of livability, so putting people at the center of our thinking and embracing our responsibility of looking after people's health and their well-being. In support of this is the SMART agenda. Yet SMART is not truly smart if it only allows us to do what we do now but more efficiently. And SMART is only truly smart if it helps us to meet these overarching principles. So engineers are required to use robust futures analyses to understand how they can meet the combined aspirations of people and of cities, to understand why designs might be vulnerable to future change, and to make designs adaptable to be able to cope with change as it happens. Now, Livable Cities has lots of outputs, and what you'll hear this afternoon is a small part of how we have compiled an evidence base to support the case for change and some of the tools to do it. I should add that the program builds on an extensive portfolio of prior research, also funded by the EPSRC, into sustainability and resilience of urban environments. So what you see on this slide, our outputs and our outcomes, sits on top of a very substantial existing evidence base. And a large part of what we've done is actually bringing people more into the center of the debates, exploring more fully what is needed to make change happen and to ensure that this change is most effective, and to help to draw the previous work together into a coherent and novel approach to how we deliver cities for the future. So our outputs are available on our website, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Little Book series. So this is a set of the Little Books that I have here, but I also understand that ICE have them on their stand over there. So if you want to pick up copies, I have a full set here, and like I say, over there. People can take them away? No, people cannot take them away. However, I can tell you that you can download them all off our website, and the address is at the end of the presentation. So just to link to some complementary work that we did, there was a small project called Urban Living Birmingham where we developed a method for diagnosing a city's challenges. So in Livable Cities, we looked at assessing how a city performs, but here we looked at how we diagnose challenges, different but very related. But this is something, this diagnostics of challenges is something that's largely missing in academia and also in practice. So for this, we developed an innovative methodology, brought together qualitative and quantitative analysis techniques, and its outcome was this interrelated plexus of critical challenges, which we had developed for Birmingham. And this interrelationship, this way we managed to link them together, has clear implications for how Birmingham should address the challenges in a joined-up way. And I mention it because this methodology is applicable to any city. But we'll return to Livable Cities. So today, Adriana and I are going to focus upon two areas. We're going to focus upon city life and city futures. And we form two ends of a process, which we call the Livable Cities method. And this method enables cities to know how they are currently behaving and where they want to go in the future. And moving between the two is much of what the Livable Cities focus was. And that's reflected in our little books, also our tools and our case studies, and I have a copy of some of those here with me today if you're interested. They're encapsulated here as governance, values, and innovation, she says. So we're going to start with city life. So right at the start of the program, we realized that if we thematically interpret how a city behaves, so transport, energy, water, health, promotes siloed thinking, and we needed to do things a different way. So we organized livability into a strategic planning hierarchy. So this sought to couple well-being, resource security, and resource efficiency, and to decouple these three from carbon emissions. Here we have lenses, and we use the 4 lenses of sustainability. They're disaggregated into these high-level goals. These have desired directions of travel, so for example, enabling something to happen. They're disaggregated into actions, just here. So those can be made operational, and then they can be measured using the indicators. And in total, we identified 345 indicators to measure urban livability. So this graphic shows the indicators organized by this lens framework. So the 4 lenses are in the middle, so you can see them here. And then you have the goals and the actions. And these, although they're not filled in, represent the 345 indicators. And then we collected data for these, and we collected data in Birmingham, Lancaster and Southampton. And I don't have time to go into the data sets themselves, but just so you know, we do have them. But one of the things we discovered is that not all the data we wanted were available. And this is indicated by these blank missing slices. Now, this may be because the data are proprietary. It may be because they're simply not collected. In all, about 1/3 of the indicators have a null value, and what this means is that 1/3 of livability is actually missing from our decision making. And we saw also that these cities were particularly data poor for things like aligning people's aspirations with livability, ensuring the physical environment that maximizes well-being, and minimizing energy, food and materials use and waste. So that was our whistle-stop tour of city life. It leaves us with at least 4 questions. How can we make our cities livable if 1/3 of what makes them livable is hidden from us? What does this mean for the Sustainable Development Goal for cities and the other Sustainable Development Goals? How does diagnosing a city's challenges affect how it engages with global priorities such as the Sustainable Development Goals, so potentially competing priorities? And what is the role of engineers and engineering in helping to answer these questions? So I'm going to hand over to Adriana, who's going to talk about city futures. But are there any questions before I do so? Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, good. So as Joanne said, I'm going to talk about, in the same context of livable cities, I'm going to talk about future or principles for future cities. I'm Adriana Ortegon. I'm a researcher at the University College London. So just to sort of frame our thinking, when we talk about principles, we say that principles connect your values to your actions. And your values are what you consider important, literally what you value. So it is to your principles that you turn when you face hard choices. So our aim during this research was to understand how we could radically transform the engineering approaches for city development. And for us, radically meant from the root, going to the core and understanding what's the city in its core components. So as we've heard today, cities are the hard infrastructure that builds stuff, but also the functional system that provide the services and the flows and the processes, but also the soft infrastructures. And we have things like policies, governance, but innovation, knowledge, and ingenuity. But while looking at the core elements of the city, we found out that the most important element of the city, what cities are truly, is people. Cities are people, because everything wonderful about cities happens because of people being there and allowing exchanges, interactions, innovation. However, this means that cities are also great challenges. And then we have things like congestion, air pollution, issues with rubbish. But we also understood through our research that this is also related to how we've engineered our cities through time. So the fact that we plan cities with systems that are isolated with this siloed thinking. So we discovered that we needed some ingenuity for future city visions. So because we thought, if we go from now to a probable future, we're going to move the good things, but probably we're going to take forward the bad things, the challenges as well. So we thought maybe we need to define what an ideal, a preferable future city could be. And of course, that preferable future city was going to have elements of probable, of plausible and possible, but most importantly, it was going to have elements of beyond the possible. So what's the impossible? What's the thing that needs to happen in technology, in social technical challenges, so that we can get to this ideal city? So what is this city? Well, how does it look like? Well, well, this city, as we think, it has the city vision. It's maybe not what we used to see, which is like an hybrid view of a city with technology. And no, we decided that this future city vision is something that is composed of urban principles. So fundamental urban principles that underpin everything that a city does. They're not sectorial, but actually they just touch every system in the city. So these urban principles are, this future city needs to be a healthy city, which is a city that promotes and delivers health and prevents illness of people on the planet now and for future generations. A courteous city, which is a city that promotes positive and polite social interactions, trust, mutual respect, and incentivizes behaviors that support the vision. A city as a public space, which promotes the sense of ownership and belonging, in which spaces are open, safe, secure, with aesthetical qualities, but that also act as stages of cultural, personal, and political expression. An active, connected, and inclusive city, which is a city that ensures fair access to diverse and viable activities, addresses diverse needs, reduces poverty, and prevents fragmentation and isolation. And this is about having the activities, so having employment, having cultural activities, having education, but also it's about urban form. Where do you place your activities in the city? And then it's also about transport, and ICT, how you connect the people to those activities. And of course, making sure that everyone is included. And finally, the fifth city principle is the evolving city. So a city that is multi-purpose and flexible, innovative and responsive, able to sense, monitor, learn, and adapt dynamically, and that does this continuously to support future generations. And this touches something that we heard before. This could be a lot about technology, like evolving city, it's about technology, but actually technology is just a means. It's just something that we use. But it's also about what we heard before of not building things. So for example, this is a park in a city in Brazil called Curitiba, which is a floodplain as well. So as opposed to building the infrastructure to control flooding, they just decided to build a nice park that from time to time just floods, but it works perfectly to control that aspect of the city. Similarly, something that you're perhaps more familiar with and that's happening now in London and several places, at least TfL is actively promoting the idea of sustainable drainage systems. Again, it's about not thinking of the systems isolated, but actually integrating them and making them responsive. So thinking how we can provide, yes, the connectivity of the transport infrastructure, but also the drainage that we need and also the social interactions. So this is what we think a future ideal city should look like, and this is a set of urban principles, but they're not meant to be like dictatorial. This is not the thing. This actually, they're meant to be dynamic. They should be able to change from one city to the other, and they should be able to change as people and their needs changes. The important thing is that they have people being well. This future ideal city has people being well at its core, and also that it's a starting point for a discussion. So looking at the vision of the city, the different agents of the city can start discussing and talking about what the future of the city should be, and actually should act as a common goal, as a shared direction. So then, obviously this looks a bit like high level, like very conceptual. So how do we bring this into practice? And when we were looking at that, we realized, we found that UN Habitat recently defined that prosperous cities, like sustainable cities, are moving from being planned cities to being cities that plan. So this planning is not something that's static, it's not a document. Now planning is a verb, it's something active and dynamic. And through this planning, what happens is that around a vision, the different agents interact and exchange and discuss. And it's this interaction what allows that the principles go into plans and projects. And this could happen at a large scale, big projects which are top-down led, but this can also happen at a small scale with small projects, community-led projects that can happen quickly and that can show that the transformation is possible and that the principles can be a reality. Thank you.
When you mentioned cities are actively planning, what do you mean? What is the difference between cities that plan and cities that are actively planning?
Well, planning traditionally happened like around Maybe with political cycles, you have a new mayor and then you need to make a master plan. Or you have a big project, you have Crossrail, or and then you have to do a master plan for that. So it was something that happened like for the specific milestones. And then the plan happened, and then once that sort of interest around that topic went away, the plan sort of lost importance as well. However, what they describe now is that this interaction now can happen all the time, not just because we have a new mayor and we want to plan a city, or just because we have a big project and we want to plan that project. Now we can interact in spaces like this, or if you go to a community, and if you have a city vision, then you can exchange and discuss specific items around that vision, and then that's what means that the city is being planned all the time, as opposed to just having a master plan around a topic or a moment in time. Any other questions? No? Well, no. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.